All right. Again, thank you so much for being here. Please feel free to change your name in Zoom if you'd like to anonymize yourself, or you can keep your name, whatever you're most comfortable with. We know job searching in the public sector can be challenging. But I want to start by welcoming you to today's Digital Service Network hiring spotlight for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's Digital Leadership Team. I am Beck Center Fellow Kirsten Wyatt, and it's my pleasure to moderate today's presentation. The Digital Service Network is a growing peer learning network that connects and supports digital service teams and professionals who use people, process, and technology to improve government services. One of the ways that we do this is to uncover and share the stories of state and local digital government and introduce you to the jobs and careers where you can make a difference. And today we are so excited to share 6 open positions with the newly formed Pennsylvania Digital Service. The Digital Service Network is supported by the Beck Center for Social Impact and Innovation at Georgetown University and the U.S. Digital Response. At all of our events, you can expect that we're going to make good use of your time. We're going to talk like humans and not bureaucrats, and you're going to learn something new and meet somebody new. And so, as you may have heard, there is really exciting news in Pennsylvania that will shape the future of digital service for Pennsylvanians. Governor Josh Shapiro recently hired Bry Pardoe as the inaugural executive director of the Commonwealth Office of Digital Experience, or Code PA. Bry's appointment was announced alongside an executive order on the governor's customer service transformation strategy and the establishment of the Commonwealth Office of Digital Experience to improve online service for Pennsylvanians and streamline the way that they interact with the Commonwealth online. Pennsylvanians use the Commonwealth's websites and digital services for everything from renewing vehicle registration and paying taxes to visiting state parks and getting a license to help further careers. Code PA, led by Bry, will make it easier for Pennsylvanians to connect with the vital resources provided by the Commonwealth. And again, this is all part of Governor Shapiro's commitment to making customer service a centerpiece of his administration and ensuring that government moves at the speed of business to serve the people of the Commonwealth. And so now the leadership team for Code PA is forming. There are 6, that's right, 6 leadership positions in this new office that will deploy online tools and solutions. And so today we're really excited to welcome back 2 of our favorite people in Pennsylvania. We have Toni McIntyre, the Digital Services Director, and Annie Newman, the Director of Digital Strategy, both in Governor Shapiro's administration. They are going to share an overview of the open positions and hiring process, as well as the new administration's values and goals for the Commonwealth. And you'll have plenty of time to ask questions. This webinar is free, and a recording will be made, and a recap will be shared online after today's event. And again, if you're not yet a member, we hope you'll take a minute to sign up for the Digital Service Network email list. The DSN is here to be responsive to your needs and will develop more webinars, articles, research, toolkits, and more based on what you're looking for to advance your work in digital service. If you have questions while Toni and Annie are presenting, please use the chat to ask questions, and I'll moderate those as they come in or toward the end. And as you can see, we'll be very active in the chat, sharing links and information from our speakers today. And so with that, I'll stop talking and turn it over to our featured speakers, Toni and Annie. Take it away.
Hi, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay? Thumbs up. Excellent. I'm always paranoid that I'm having some kind of mic trouble, so just wanted to make sure. I'm Toni. I am, as was said literally 5 seconds ago, the Digital Services Director for Governor Josh Shapiro in the Office of Digital Strategy.
Yeah. And hi, everyone. I'm Annie Newman. I'm the Governor's Director of Digital Strategy. As kind of Kristen said, we just launched our very first digital services team. We are really excited and just really love being here with all of you guys and with DSN. So glad to be here. Toni, you're muted. There,
I knew that.
I know. There, Michaela, I think you're good for the slides if we can share your screen.
Yep, that's what I said when I was muted.
I read your lips.
Awesome. Give me 1 second here.
You read my mind, Annie. Great. So, right, this is the reason we are all here. We are officially hiring for Code PA. Thank you to the Beck Center. Seriously, I know Annie just said that, but for helping us organize this. Getting this digital service team established has really been a team effort. Annie and I and Jolie, our deputy chief of staff, have really benefited from the advice and just listening ear of everyone at the Beck Center, 18F, USDS, USDR, and digital services teams from Colorado, the city of Philadelphia, Massachusetts, Boston, and the city of San Francisco. So it warmed my heart to see everyone so willing to stand up a new team like this. We can go to the next slide. Yeah, so Code PA stands for the Commonwealth Office of Digital Experience. Code PA is just cuter, more fun. And the goal of this office is to improve services for Pennsylvanians and streamline the way they interact with the Commonwealth online. Code PA will work to ensure Pennsylvania provides digital services that are responsive, user-friendly, and acceptable. And accessible, not acceptable. Well, both. We can go to the next slide. One day I'll get a headshot, but it's not today. So we already introduced ourselves. I'm Toni McIntyre. You met Annie Newman. And we can go to the next slide. So we too are really privileged to be able to do this work and to do this work for a governor who gets it. You know, he loves technology. He is reading about technology. I think he sent Annie an article on technology, I'm sure last night, like 9 p.m. This is a governor that really knows that we are only as good as our online experience, and that the vast number of Pennsylvanians are interacting with us online. He is a really big proponent of there being no wrong door for Pennsylvanians to go to in order to get services. You shouldn't know the exact agency that a service lives under in order to get help. We are also privileged to have a chief of staff and senior staff that really get it, and an office of administration that is really dedicated to helping stand this team up and working in a collaborative effort with this team. We can go to the next slide. So this is a photo from yesterday, which is a really great day. And when the governor officially signed the executive order that established Code PA, when he did that, he also introduced Bry Pardoe as executive director of Code PA, formally introducing her to the Commonwealth, and she's going to get started with her work very soon. And in that, in the speech he gave, he really took the time to, I think, put into context the importance of this with some stats that I am definitely going to bore you with in a second. But I think, you know, this being a tech audience, y'all will appreciate that since 2022, more than 250,000 people have made reservations to the state parks and forest digital reservation system in Pennsylvania. And this year alone, nearly 500,000 people have filed their sales tax returns using the PA Department of Revenue's MyPath system. So thousands and thousands of Pennsylvanians are interacting with the Commonwealth online, and by standing up this team, we can really do the important work of improving those interactions. Next slide. Right, the no wrong door. Under the leadership of Code PA, we'll create human-centered, user-friendly, reliable, and accessible digital services. I should say that Governor Shapiro is really competitive. So, you know, we're excited to have had the help of other digital services team, that Governor Shapiro wants us to be among the best. So he is very raring for this team to hit the ground running and ensure that our digital services are among the best too. And next slide, and I'm going to officially kick it over to Annie.
Awesome. Thanks, Toni. So thanks, everyone. So these are the roles that we're currently hiring for. This is kind of our senior leadership team of Code PA. And just to put it into a little bit of context, the ED, Bry will report to the CIO, and she'll also report to me in the governor's office. In Bry's role as ED, she will be on the senior staff of the Office of Administration and the senior staff of the CIO. And we actually enshrined that in executive order. So I say that to share that these positions will have a seat at the table at the highest level possible. We're really excited about it. I think it's a kind of a full-flushed look. I do want to shout out two things, actually, when I look at this list. Operations and procurement, that role also we kind of mandated in that executive order that person would be able to be at the table for any sort of legal discussion about procurement, to make kind of procurement and procurement of software especially as easy as possible, and made sure that they had a voice and that no one could disregard it, frankly. The last position there, head of quality, analytics, and infrastructure, I just think that's really cool. We did go back and forth on whether we wanted to include it, and I think there's a lot of room there for really cool innovation, really cool testing, and I see that role as really making sure that we have a solid launch point to grow from here. But if you go to the next slide, I think, yep, you'll see kind of how we are currently envisioning the full team. I say currently envisioning because these roles under each leadership position, and head of operations and procurement is just up there with the leadership positions. We just ran out of space. These are TBD. This is how we envision it currently, but the head of user experience will decide what is under them in conjunction with Bry, and make the best decision about what's right for them. We have used this to kind of show our team that this is the scale of what we are talking about. So we have, what the number that we've been using is that we want this team to be at almost 40 people in the next 2 years. We're hiring really quickly, and I think that we will have, frankly, no problem getting there except for logistics. So this is kind of what the org chart looks like. We have room for really all of it. I think I'll go through a little bit about each position really quick, and kind of call out some special little features. Head of front-end development is pretty straightforward. There's 2 front-end developers listed there, because we envision them working very closely with backend and full stack if we decide we need full stack on a project basis. Head of product management, we see this role as working very, very closely. Obviously, every role is going to work closely with everyone, but this role will work really closely with our head of operations to be what's the best word, to really be like an ambassador for the project in and outside of Code PA. So when you're the head of product management, you will not be barred from interacting with the stakeholders who you're serving. So you'll be talking to agency folks. You'll be, talking to me in the governor's office and our deputy chief of staff who's interested in whatever. However, you will be joined by the head of operations to make sure that you do not have so much on you that you can't go back to your team and actually run the product management process. But we did want to make sure that the product manager has a voice in the stakeholder engagement. Head of user experience, this is the governor's favorite job, which I think is really funny and cool. Really excited to be able to build out a team of UX designers and researchers. We also really want to make room for content strategists and know that we can't and don't want to depend on digital staff in the governor's office and in each agency to write this content, because we know what's going to perform best and we know what we need to do to create these products. This is a full service operation. So excited to have those. Again, back in development, pretty straightforward, but we love them. Head of quality, analytics, and infrastructure. I kind of just chatted about a little bit. We'll go through, I think they'll really run our QA testing, and also kind of, I think the way that we're seeing it now is run our QA testing and also be a home for data analytics and data science that is really going to be at the foundation of how this group runs, especially at the onset, and making sure that we have the data that we need to make decisions about what services to prioritize, what to work on, and what to skip. And then head of operations and procurement is going to be our deputy chief of staff, Joe Lee's best friend. He is the best advocate that anyone could ask for, and worked very closely with me and Joe and Bry in the executive director role to keep operations of this team moving, but also to make sure that you have the tools and the products and the human resources that you need. So that's my ramble on the jobs. If we can go to the next slide. What's next? I can kind of take a stab at this, and then Toni, I'll turn it to you to close this out. But we are going to serve the good people of Pennsylvania, as one Josh Shapiro says. We have a lot to do. We've also been very, very clear with our stakeholders and with the press yesterday at this press conference that this is not a flip of the switch situation. We are building a team that is meant to last in government for years. It will outlast Governor Shapiro if we do this right. There is no timetable on this team to get their first product out the door by X date. We want to make sure that you have the space and capacity that you need to really build the relationships with OA, Office of Administration, with OIT, the Office of Information and Technology, and then make sure that you have the data at hand to pick what you're going to do first. We all love an easy win. I'm not worried about getting easy wins, but you have me and Toni and Joe, who couldn't be on today, as real gatekeepers to make sure that you have the space to do what you need to do. And then we're going to do it all over again, and it's going to be really great. Toni, anything else to add there?
No, I will say that this slide was part of the template that our coworker McKenna in comms put together, but I kept it in this presentation because I think it so beautifully, simply encapsulates Governor Shapiro's approach to things like this that we've all kind of definitely, I think, also gotten on board with in the administration. It's what we're going to do every day, all day. Just do it over again. Yeah, I think that's good. I think the last slide, which is when we open it for questions.
Wonderful. And I see that some questions have come in the chat already, so please feel free to use that feature to ask your questions. And I just want to say, as an outsider to Governor Shapiro's administration, and having the opportunity to work with Toni and Annie, everything they're saying is true, and we saw this happen. We did a similar webinar back when they were hiring for Bry's position, for the executive director position, and they said things like they were going to move quickly, they were going to hire quickly, that they were going to have the backing of the administration, of leadership, and all of that has been true. We've seen that happen. And so it may sound too good to be true, but it is. And what they're sharing with you is the reality that you'll experience. So we're really pleased that so many of you have logged on to join us today. So I'm going to get to the questions now. Again, please feel free to drop those in the chat. Make sure we can capture them for the recording. First question is, do you know the time frame for when some of those lower level positions will be posted?
Yeah, right now they will likely be posted mid-May. They will not be hired before the heads of each department comes on. You will have that call. We do want to make sure that you have kind of a short list of people that are good and are ready to kind of walk in and not be without staff for long, which is really our thinking there. So probably mid-May. Our Bry formally starts on May 15th. We'd like to get these, her leadership in as soon as we can, barring, normal logistics. And then when you start, we'll hand you a list of people that, applied, people that we like, people that have come to us from other means, and let you go for it.
I'm going to put in a quick plug here. If you sign up for our DSN list, we plan on posting and sharing all of these job postings as they come open. That's a huge feature of our monthly newsletter that goes out. And of course, we'll always be willing to showcase and share those postings as well. So just make sure you sign up for the newsletter or sign up for our list. I'll drop it in the chat one more time here. Next question is, will this team have access and budget to leading and emerging technology?
Easy question. No, broad question. Yes. Let's start with access. Absolutely. That is why we added procurement to our operations director. It's because we knew it was going to, I think our friends here are always very good at telling us that, there's going to be blockers. This is public sector, right? We're building something that has never been made before. However, we've done literally everything to kind of start knocking those down before that person already gets in, including ongoing discussions with our legal team that Toni is very competently leading, to make sure that when this role gets in, you will have no impediment to the technology that you need. So yes, you will. The budget is there. I think more important than the budget, honestly, is that the priority is there. In Pennsylvania, we do our budget year on year, and we project 5 years out with each budget. I know that the Secretary of Office of Administration, Neil Weaver, has already planned on ever increasing budget for this team over the next 6 years.
Next question, how much of the work of this team is extending existing services versus building net new offerings?
Yeah, I mean, Toni, I'm curious your perspective here too, but I think mine is that that's up to you. Like, we want you to have the space to see what already exists, what we need to tear down, what we need to fix, and what we need to build anew. I suspect it's going to live in the middle of, we have a lot of services that for a long time people have tried to improve and they just weren't empowered to do it, which is why we signed the executive order to do. So I suspect that there will be a launch pad for some things that you can take and run with, now that we've kind of removed some blockers that already existed, but it's up to you. Toni, I don't know if you have other thoughts too.
No, I agree with that. I think the discovery phase of this is going to be really interesting, because, I feel like just in the short, or like almost 100 days that Annie and I have been here, we're finding something new every day, that's at a different place that, is maybe internal, maybe with a vendor, maybe needs work, maybe just needs to be ripped down to the studs, which, I don't know, to me is really exciting because I thought I knew how large the Commonwealth was as like an entity, but it is incredibly sprawling, and getting to kind of dive into the individual agencies and get to know their work and like the individual services and all of that has been really cool. So, yeah.
And I think you've answered this question, but I'll ask it again because I think it's important to drive home. Will the team use agile methodologies and be fully empowered to remove blockers?
Yes. Yes, the answer is yes, period. That is one of the reasons in large part that we decided to have the executive director co-report to me in the governor's office, both because we want this team to be fully empowered to carry out pieces of the governor's policy, but also because we are the easiest way to tell people that this is how we're going to do it, because the governor said so. And in a sprawling bureaucracy, that is our trump card, and we're going to use it.
Yeah, I think some degree of this work is inherently disruptive, even though we are working with the agencies. We're very much not like kicking in a door and being like, you have to use this now. But anytime there is that roadblock, it very much helps. And I've seen it happen multiple times. The minute someone like CC someone from the governor's office, it's wild how magically the road is unblocked.
Question here, are these positions remote or on site? And I'll also paste into the chat the application page, and this information is included, but Annie, Toni, why don't you share with us how remote works?
Yeah, great question. We're in a tricky spot here in a lot of ways, which is why I think everyone will kind of agree that the verbiage on the application is perhaps not the clearest thing in the entire world on this. It's a little bit easier expressed verbally. I think the TLDR here is yes, they can be remote if you want them to be. They do have to be in Pennsylvania. That's going to be a thing. If you are not in Pennsylvania and you're interested in this, we want to hear from you. If you are interested in relocating to Pennsylvania and being remote, also an option. We really have been empowered to make these roles remote if we need them to be. We would love for folks to be in Harrisburg as needed, and think especially for the senior team, you will need to be in Harrisburg for a few days a week as the team launches, just for normal operations. That's what Bry's plan is as well. but you will have the flexibility to work from home. You will also have office opportunities and office space if you'd like to use it in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. So the short answer here is it can be what we want it to be. And I would say, please don't let that stop you from applying. It's just a part of this application process that's a little bit better worked out by us on the back end, making sure it's possible.
Great. Next question, will all digital products be built in-house, or will these leadership roles do buy versus build assessments to consider acquiring third-party open source white label solutions that could be purchased and integrated?
Yeah, that's a great question. You will be doing buy versus build assessments. And we actually did put that in our executive order, not to sound like a broken record, but to say that, you know, we do not expect this team to change the way that the Commonwealth delivers online services in a day. Part of the problem that we face right now, and that I think Toni and I saw really clearly when we started our jobs, are that not only do we outsource everything, we also do it and manage those contracts by people that are not subject matter experts. We see another area that this team can be really successful in is identifying when a contract would actually be best suited and then managing that contract. So no, there's no requirement that everything needs to be in-house. We do want to generally move to that. We are excited about having that capacity for really the first time in the Commonwealth's history. But it will be a decision that's on your plate.
And two questions here about transparency and accessibility. Can you share with us how transparent or accessible these teams will be? Is there the potential for releasing projects as open source? And then do you anticipate openly sharing, blogging about the effort over time as you're learning things, growing the team, similar to US Digital Service posts on Medium?
I would say yes to both, love it. But ultimately both of those decisions on how to kind of promote the team and whether to make this open source will be up to the team and up to you in conjunction with Bry. There is absolutely no reason why I think we should not do either of those things. But it is going to be totally up to you. And I don't mean to use that as a cop out, just that, like, we trust you. And so this is your work, so you can decide whether it's open or not.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Pennsylvania has an open data team that has made data from the Commonwealth really accessible. So I could see this team doing something similar to, like, varying degrees. And, you know, we have a governor who's very pro, like, we work for the people. We want to, you know, we have to document everything we do. It's just a government thing. So yeah, I could see that happening. Like Annie said, it's very much up to Bry and the team.
Good point on open data. They're great. They're really good partners, and they're excited about this.
Next question is around visual assets. Do you know yet where responsibilities for visual assets will be dedicated? Or do you think that creating visual assets will be part of one of these departments?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'll start by saying branding and how things look is incredibly important to us. Like the UX design and visual assets of this, and by us, I mean me, Toni, and Governor Shapiro. It is such an indicator of how much we care about our constituents and how much we value these services when they look nice. I know I don't need to say that to you as a team of UX designers, but like, we care a lot about it. So I think that, like, I think the way this is going to end up is that the head of UX will decide how much they want to handle. And again, we'll leave that to them. We are in a really cool position in Pennsylvania where we have an awesome team in another agency. It's called CMS, the Commonwealth Media Service. And they essentially serve as like an in-house creative studio for all of the Commonwealth's agency and teams. So say you're the head of UX and you decide, you know, you want to go at this far in visual assets and creation, but you need to outsource, quote unquote, you know, individual graphic items, logos, whatever you decide you need. That's when we can bring in CMS, and we have a whole other team of people here to help you do that.
Can you share how you're imagining this office will work with other agencies? Is it more of a sprint on a scoped project scenario, or will it be more of a continuous advisory role?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say it is more of a sprint on a scoped project scenario. We did mandate in the EO that And we're going to further enshrine this in what's called a management directive, which is really just a way of saying like the governor wants the agencies to operate in this way. We're going to further enshrine it and say that this team has the right of first refusal for projects that would otherwise be over X dollars, and the team will decide what that dollar is, or if it's not dollar, if it's like, oh, over this much impact. So you'll be able to kind of refuse or take those on, or take pieces of those on. You know, I think in terms of like an advisory or consulting role, I don't really see that being the case here. There are always exceptions, but I think the idea here is to really build something and then let it free and help the agencies learn how to administer it. Toni, I don't know if you have thoughts there too.
Yeah, no, I think like when it comes to the advisory part, that's kind of what the digital office and the governor's office of digital strategy is already doing. Yeah, like myself and two of the other leadership people we have here have regular contact with the agency digital directors, so they know to come to us for questions. So while I think some advisory may happen, like I think that our office is going to take on a majority of that, I would say.
Question about legal resources to collaborate with and wade through the challenges around understanding the use of data, personal identifying information handling, and how that relates to cloud versus on-premises scenarios.
Yeah, we work really closely with the Office of General Counsel on a lot of these things. Like Annie and I have already had multiple meetings with them over procurement things. There are management directives over PII handling that I imagine that leadership team would be brought up to speed on, that are like OA specific directives. So some of that is really in place already. And the rest, I would say, we have a good working relationship with OGC and would be able to work with them on any other legal questions as they pop up.
And maybe along those lines, where do you anticipate product or app security would fall in the team? Obviously a critical step in building safe services. And are there already resources on board that the team would collaborate with?
Yeah, that's a great question. We did not create a department in Code PA for this. I could totally see that being something that they decide to do after their first 2 years. We do have Office of Technology. They handle our cybersecurity right now. They do have a large team in place already. So you'll work closely with them to handle security needs, as well as any kind of regulation or best practice around data privacy. But that's actually a great thought. I hadn't thought about putting it in the team. And I think I could totally see that happening and working really well, just so you have someone of your own.
Question here about how safe will these positions be when the administration changes?
Stable.
Yeah, I think, yeah, stable. And I just want to speak from my own personal experience. When I was a digital transformation fellow with the city of Philadelphia, and at the time their Office of Digital Transformation answered to the governor, not their OIT. That shifted over the course of that governor's term. But I think it was important, especially in the beginning, getting ODT off the ground, that they also had that executive office buy-in, which is, like Annie said, why this team would co-report to Annie and the governor's office and Bry as executive director. So the intent is, even if the executive office changes in some way, there's that stability in it co-reporting to the Office of Administration, which exists beyond the term of the governor.
It's also because we created it by executive order, it's effectively the law, which is kind of hilarious, but it's true.
All right. Do you anticipate any opportunity for subject matter experts in the area to join as mentors or advisors, whether overall or to the specific teams?
That's really cool. Yes, Love it. I mean, I think that in practice, I think absolutely. I'm kind of just like thinking out loud here. I love that idea. I think it makes sense to involve people that maybe can't make the jump or just like aren't in the place in their careers, right? To like make the jump into the public service. I definitely think that that'll happen when the team is a little bit more established and has like operations folks up and running to be able to manage a program like that. But I love that idea. And I think it's really smart.
Are there any producing positions that help for collaboration, for collaborations to run smoothly? Do you think that that's going to be a role of the product managers or in the operations department?
Yeah, we do see that as living between product and operations. My thought and the way that I'm looking at it is that really lives in operations. It's how like the operations director is responsible for making sure that folks are working together and are in the know, and they have a team, not only to help them with some of the logistics of like government operations, but also for that. I think that's how a lot of other states have done it. I believe that's kind of where it lives in Colorado, which worked really closely on this. So that's how we see it.
Do you know of any particular products or services that you think are going to be prioritized once the team is up and running?
Love that question. Toni has been keeping a running list. So I'll preface by saying and I know I've kind of said this again, I don't mean to sound like a broken record. We've been really careful with our stakeholders, with the governor, with the chief of staff, with our agency directors, that we are not mandating a certain project as the first one here. We are not mandating their priorities. That is up to them. That said, we do want the first projects to be focused on creating opportunity for Pennsylvanians. We think that's a pretty broad bucket, but it's anywhere from expanding access to childcare and making sure those grants and services are more easily accessible. A big one that the governor did sign a separate executive order mandating, kind of a separate thing, is reforming our permit, license, and certifications, meaning like just to start a business, to get a cosmetology license. Those practices are really, really hard. It's hard to find and it's really difficult to administer. I think that's a good, I do think that's a good, like kind of big first project to start, and probably one that's on the mind. But again, it is up to you. Toni, anything else that I know we've like, as we launch this team, we've got like random people on our teams being like, I have an idea. Could they reform the way that PennDOT gives service or gives like applications to highway use? And I'm like, if they want to, yeah, they definitely can. So we are keeping track of those. But Toni, anything else that I forgot there?
No, I was going to say yes, but I'm not going to tell you because I think, again, it's a long list, it's a running list, and also we want the team to be established and to be able to kind of take in the landscape and do their own research and like make informed decisions where that is concerned, I think.
I love this next question because it's just indicating the enthusiasm for all of the hiring that you'll be doing. If someone was interested in one of the lower level positions, does it make sense to send in an application for one of these director roles, or should they wait until those positions are posted and advertised?
I would say, as a woman who often underestimates herself, like definitely send it in, just for that. You should do it. If you're on this call, you probably are qualified and you should do it. That said, if you are not selected for that position, we absolutely keep those resumes. That's actually what we did with our executive directors. And we've had awesome conversations with folks that were shortlisted for executive director roles that are now really excited about some of these roles. The same process will apply. So I'd say do it because you're probably more qualified than we know.
No, I like that. I agree with that.
Does the state sponsor work visas for applicants who require visas?
I don't know. Toni, do you know? I will find out for you if we don't know.
That is a good question. Yeah, I think that's something that I can hear all the lawyers in my head telling me don't answer that if you're not 100% sure. So I'm going to say I'm not 100% sure. But it's easily looked into. And I think, to quote Annie earlier, I would not let that stop you from applying, because that sounds like HR red tape thing that we could certainly find out after you submit an application.
And Kirsten, I can figure out what our like official stance is on that and send that to you for any follow-up.
Perfect. Yeah, and as a reminder to everyone here, we're recording today. We're going to send out a copy of the recording and follow up with all of these great links that we've shared, and we will answer that question in that email. So stay tuned. Question about the best way to follow along on this journey and continue to be part of the conversation and be aware of other job openings. And again, I'm going to put in the plug for DSN, but would love to hear also from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think for right now, DSN is absolutely the best place. I mean, there's nothing that we could not launch this team or do this without DSN or without Kristen, like in a very real way. So all of that will be updated there. We will eventually definitely have Code PA social channels. We're already talking yesterday about a Code PA brand. The governor was like, "Where's my Code PA backpack?" Like, I thought this was a tech startup. So we're on it. It's probably a little bit early. But I do think we need one. So short answer, I would say DSN will have all the latest. Also, Toni and I on LinkedIn and on Twitter share all of those things.
Yep.
And then how quickly are you looking to onboard these leadership roles? When can folks expect to hear if they're considered? And then when do you expect interviews to begin, and what will that interview process look like?
Yeah, so I'll say I think interviews will probably begin end of May. Again, Bry starts May 15th. We want to make sure that she's included there. But that said, please reach out to us, especially if you're on this call. And we've been doing just like chats with folks if you want to learn more or just have questions or just chat. Like, we're here for that. I don't want to, like, I always feel like whether I should say this or not, but like, we do want to go as fast as possible. We always do, because we always do. That said, we also want the right person. And so I would say, we want as fast as possible. If you don't think you can leave your job tomorrow, that's cool. Bry couldn't, and that's fine. She's still the executive director. But we are excited to start. And so the sooner the better.
All right, so I think we are getting close to time. We want to be respectful of everyone's time. So I just want to do a great big thank you to everyone for attending today's hiring spotlight. And a special thank you to Toni and Annie for sharing their time, their vision, and their perspective with us about this exciting new office and these 6 leadership roles. Just a reminder, please sign up to be a member of the DSN. You'll get updated about more events like this, job postings. We're also building out a very robust library of digital services tools. I think Annie and Toni even used some of those library resources in putting together some of these job descriptions and putting together some of the materials that they'll be using right out of the gate when Code PA gets started. I do want to also put in a plug. One of our other DSN members, the state of Massachusetts, is also hiring. So if you're interested in working for Massachusetts, they're hiring a deputy chief digital officer. It's a full-time role. And we'll put that job in the chat as well. Again, just another reminder that DSN is here to support your careers in this field. So want you to apply for these positions in Pennsylvania, but also keep your eyes open for work in Massachusetts. Again, we really want to make sure the DSN is meeting your needs. So if you have feedback on today's event, we'll put a survey link in here and also in our follow-up. I'd love to have your ideas and comments about how we can make sure the DSN is here to serve you. So with that, we will close today's event. Want to thank all of you again for attending. Please stay in touch. And again, a huge thanks to Toni, Annie, and Governor Shapiro for the great work that they're doing in the Commonwealth. Thanks so much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Kristen.